Welcome to Doing It My Way by Beata Matras, a podcast about project and product management, communication, brand, and IT. All these topics will definitely improve and have a positive impact on your career. So join me today, subscribe, and expect a new episode every week. Thank you.
Welcome to Doing It My Way by Beata Matras. Today I'm sitting with Nesrine Changuel, PhD, a product management expert with over a decade of experience in companies such as Microsoft, Google, and Spotify. A specialist in building large-scale, user-centric products, Nesrine has played a significant role in creating solutions that are impacting millions of customers. With her strong focus on fostering diversity and inclusion and empowering women in tech, Nesrine is sharing her experiences at international conferences, like today, for example. That's why we are also meeting. And currently, she is a product advisor, speaker, mentor, and she's teaching the next generation of product managers of how to build lovable products. Welcome, Nesrine. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Same here.
So, Nesrine, I've introduced you briefly, but I think you can share more in depth of your experience, especially in product, and share insights about your career.
Sure. So thanks for the intro. It was amazing. I would just say, of course, I recently moved into the coaching and advisory shoe recently. So I am, as you said, helping product leaders and founders and product managers build products that win hearts, not just are functional, but also does win hearts. And this is something that I've been doing for most of my product management career for the last 12 years at, as you cited, like Google, Spotify, and Microsoft as part of Skype. But also, in addition to my product expertise, I'm a community advocate. Like I'm a speaker. I also build a product community. Like I'm organizing Product Tank in Paris. And thanks to my maybe academic background, I enjoy very much being close to the academia. So I am teaching at business schools like ESSEC in Paris and other institutions. It's something that I enjoy, and it has to be part of my career. So it's a lot of legs into my current roles that brings me a different level of joy and satisfaction.
Yeah, that was very interesting when I checked your LinkedIn after you spoke at one of the conferences in Krakow, and it's like PhD. So is it PhD in product management?
No. So I first started studying like electrical engineering. So I've been an engineer as my very beginning of my career, and then I wanted to get deeper in tech. So I did an industrial PhD, meaning that I've been, of course, hosted by a company, Alcatel-Lucent at the time, and I was supervised by a university. It's an amazing deal, by the way, because you're spending like 3 days in a company and 2 days in the university, and when you are not 100% sure whether you want to do academia 100% or industry 100%, this is the best way. I have one leg in the academia, one leg in the industry. So my PhD has been 3 years that way. And it was like a pure research, and I started as a research engineer for the very first 5 years of my career. Like my career was supposed to go straight into research until one day, I started to realize that I am missing the application part of the research. You know, when you're applying, you have a prototype and you fall in love with your idea, and then you know what? When the company loves it, they give it to the business development. So they take your baby away and they develop it themselves, and they have no idea how your idea is getting implemented or loved or even used by users. So that's how I get to discover this new role of product management. And I realized that, hey, there are a lot of skills that I learned from research, being a researcher, that I could apply in product management, including like market research, user research. I mean, we do a lot of that, and I wanted to see the application of what we do research on the real users.
That's a very interesting journey, and I have to admit that I also studied engineering, power engineering, so it's very close to electrical engineering. We have something in common, and we both landed in product. That's very interesting. But Nesrine, coming back to your experience, you've managed products that impact millions of users, millions of customers globally. You worked in companies like Spotify, Google, Microsoft. We all know them. We all are using their products either at job or in our daily life. So what are the key principles to build large-scale products that still maintain this user centricity and being loved by customers?
I think it's based on different keys element, not only one element, but I can go through them one by one. The very first one is, of course, spending a lot of time understanding your users. Of course, it's very much, people are vocal about understanding your users, but I would love to emphasize the importance of getting to understand your users from an empathy perspective. So not only how they react and what do they do, but rather what do they really want to achieve on an emotional level as well. So what kind of emotion are they looking for in order to understand or to use your products? So I personally spend a lot of my time trying to talk to users regularly, but also try to understand what's their pain points, their challenges, and what could be an opportunity to make their life easier or faster. So this is key. Understanding your users, talk to users, analyze their insights. And this is key in order to, of course, target users on the best way. However, when you are building products that are global, like for all users, but also at the same time for all countries, a lot of challenges come with that. Like, of course, that there are two axes of growth, by the way. There is the internationalization or globalization axis, where you're trying to access new countries. This comes with challenges like local laws or cultural differences. Or I remember, for example, when I was at Spotify at the time was investing in opening in India. And it was 6 months trying to explore, like many long period, trying to understand how users consume music in a country like India. Because if you go with the assumption that you know based on the other country, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. So how people pay for music, how people consume music, etc. So a lot of research has to happen in the country you're targeting. That's one area. And the other area of growth is the diversification. Let's say in the beginning, Spotify was music only, and then became podcast. So this is the diversification of product, and it's another area of growth. So when you're opening an area like podcasts, and you have to explore among your existing users what opportunity can you explore, and how can you offer the product in a way that it gets used in the right way. So I'm not saying it's easy. It just requires a mindset that is much open and to be specific at the same time, but also global.
That's very interesting what you mentioned about, this real empathy, not only about thinking, okay, they are the users, we need to sell them something, but more like what they are feeling, how they behave, what are these nuances that makes them special. So my next question is actually about this, how to balance the need for scalability with ensuring that each user needs are the user's experience feels personal and relevant.
So over the last couple of years, I've been quite vocal about the importance of building delight into product. And the more I talk about delight, the more I understand that it's misunderstood. People think about delight as those nice interactions or animation in the app that make it just playful and more joyful. However, what I'm usually very vocal about when I talk about delight is creating emotional connection between the user and the product, meaning that you need to serve users with a product that exceed their expectation, so that they get this. Of course, the wow effect is one thing that people talk about, but let's take an example. So we usually differentiate between the surface delight, which is the one that, okay, the other day was my birthday and Apple Watch sent me a nice balloon saying happy birthday, like very simple. Make me smile. reminds me that there are real human behind the product, why not? But the deep delight is usually when you create product that exceed users' expectation by making them achieve their goal in a good way. And you asked about how do you make the balance. And I want to redirect the question from, instead of thinking how can we balance between delight and functionality in the roadmap, I want people to start thinking about how can we integrate delight in functionality. So instead of saying delight versus functionality, it has to be delight in functionality, meaning that once you are building a feature for your product, how can you make it more delightful? Here I love examples. So my last job at Google, I've been a product manager for Google Chrome. And I've been working on improving users' experience when it comes to managing tabs. So, everyone has like many open tabs in their Chrome app, and we perceive that differently. Some people don't care. Some people feel frustrated. Some people feel lost. Some people feel ashamed for having so many tabs. Some people feel guilt. So we try to dig deep into that topic and try to understand how can we make that better. And we built a feature called inactive tabs. So inactive tabs is a feature that is available on iOS today, where all those open tabs for more than 14 days, they are grouped in a tab group called inactive tabs. They are not disappearing or whatever, but they are grouped in a group so that people can only see tabs that have been visited for less than 14 days. And all the rest are available there to be consulted anytime user want to. So why I'm sharing this example, because it is solving, of course, a user's problem and like a painful emotion, but at the same time, it allows the product to be cleaner, to be also easier to scan, and even from a functional perspective, it takes less memory, etc. So this is what I call the light in functionality.
That's very thoughtful, I would say, because that was always like a problem when you have a lot of tabs and then you got lost,
Yes.
And once it got moved to inactive, you like stop thinking about it a little bit, and
but
still it's somewhere,
We didn't want to remove them or replace them or put them somewhere else, because people will have even another negative emotion. It's like, where are my tabs? The idea was, okay, how can we remove them from sight? But make them accessible enough so that people can get them when they want to. Because they still have this 3 button where they can say close them all. It's still easy option. But we didn't want to take that decision for the users.
Okay, that's very interesting. And moving to the decisions, because I think in companies like Google, Spotify, which are global, and there's like a lot of people working, a lot of stakeholders, a lot of different opinions, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced in managing product and how you overcome them?
Challenges when it comes to global, I think we already touched it a bit, like how can we at the same time be personal but also globally is one of the largest challenge by itself. But the biggest challenge is that how can you fit that in a roadmap, and how can you get leaders getting the thumb up and all the approval needed to bring those small items into the roadmap. So I spoke about delight earlier, but every time I talk about delight in conferences, people are telling me, hey, but we're already stuck in the must-have. Why are you talking about delight? So the biggest challenge is how can you make a bouquet in your roadmap in a way that it's not only functional and gray, but also playful and joyful in the product. I will tell you a story from my Spotify time. When I worked at Spotify, we had a year, and on that year, we worked on features like normalization. Normalization is what? It's like when you're listening to music, some different tracks from different albums, the audio is supposed to be the same. You cannot have volume high for one track and volume low for another track. So we worked on normalizing the audio volume in a way that if you have a playlist from different albums, the volume is supposed to be the same. So it's a must-have. It's something that if it's not there, people will be extremely annoyed. So we had to work on that. And at the same time, we worked on hi-fi. Hi-fi is that music that is not compressed. So at Spotify, we do have low bitrate, mid bitrate, and we even have now a format that is called hi-fi, it's like not compressed. And we worked on, maybe you've seen that in the past, like when you open a track on Spotify, you have the canvas, like the looping video of the artist on top of the track. So why I'm telling that is because we managed within the same roadmap to bring in some of the performance, some of the must-have, some of the delighters. These are the category from the canoe model, where it's possible to make a bouquet. And despite the fact that you have to fight for bringing a bit of delight in the roadmap, but it brings a personality and a brand for the product, and it's so needed.
Yeah, that actually brings to my mind when we were prioritizing features that we also want to like deliver and build within our products or my products that I was managing. We also added the joy factor to the model that we were using, because that's also very important and we forget about it. Yeah.
I mean, for me, I don't necessarily build for joy. I build for all emotions.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as you're serving a product for a human being, they experience different type of emotions, and it's very important to connect with those users at different moments, whether they are positive or negative. So, for example, when we built Google Meet, we knew that when COVID hit, there have been a lot of negative emotion from the fact that we are all stuck in the same room during the same day, talking with our colleagues, our friends, our family, all virtually. So this boredom and low of interaction was a negative emotion that we wanted to solve. So our challenge at the time was, how can we make Google Meet more interactive and less boredom, and have less boredom among the users? So you see, instead of trying to think about what's the functional need that is need to be solved, it's more how can we orient our site into what are the emotional needs and how can we solve it so that people experience the users with the best positive emotion possible.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And that moves us to the topic of diversity and inclusion for innovation. Yeah. So you've been an advocate for fostering diverse and inclusive teams. How does team diversity contribute to product delight innovation, in your opinion, in your experience?
All aspects, honestly. I mean, if you're building for a company like Google or Spotify, you're building for everyone. It's even in the vision. Like in our vision, in the product vision, we're talking about building for everyone. If you want to target everyone, how can you target everyone if you have a subset of employee, of type of employee in your organization? There's this concept of called like a unconscious bias that can easily surface up. If you have, like, let's say, only men in the room trying to define a product that will be used by 50% of the population are men and 50% are women. So how can you equally distribute and identify the needs and the challenges? So that's why having a diverse team allows you to have this mindset and this open-mindedness that is very much needed to identify needs and opportunity, not only for half of the population or a part of population, but also for everyone. And you asked me previously about what are the challenges, and honestly, building a delightful, inclusive product is extremely challenging, because it's very easy to fall into mistakes or trap where a subset of category is not represented in the product. And that's why, like, honestly, if companies today are investing in diverse team, they are actually investing in making their product more diverse and target more people. That's the goal.
That sounds like it's not only contributing, but it's mostly like essential to have the diverse and inclusive teams, especially for creating like better products. But what role, and you touched on that already, what role do you see women playing in product innovation and how organizations can support them?
So I'm here in Dubai attending a conference, the conference called Women Leaders with Tech. And one of the speakers early yesterday spoke about a personal story that really resonated with me. She said, she's a board member and she's guiding clients and partners in making decisions. And she said, like, most of the partners are men in the same room building an app for a hospital in order to enable and improve communication with sick child. And she said, like, how can you take the best decision and build the right product by considering only men's opinion? You're building a product for children. Of course, I'm not saying that you need to get partnership with children, but women talk to kids in a different way. So it's extremely important when you are building a product for a certain category of users that you take perspective from different people. And that was a great example for me because yes, it's a tech product. Yes, it's dominated by men. But as long as the end users is diverse, in that case, you need both perspective, the women perspective and the men perspective. So it's not only to achieve HR KPIs and number that we want to have this equity and diversity. It's for the impact it will bring and the diversity it will bring for the end product at the end. So that's it.
Yeah, to have a different perspective, to allow actually to think like in a different
elaborate
way.
the
Yeah,
perspective as well.
Yeah, and you've mentored a lot of product leaders. So, what are some common challenges that women face in tech leadership, in product leadership, and how they can overcome them?
I can speak about my personal example at least. I suffered from imposter syndrome, and it's real. It's not just something that, I mean, in my case personally, I've been working in super prestigious tech companies surrounded with very smart guys, or I mean, very selective interview process. So working with great minds and very talented and intelligent people makes you already think about, am I the right person? Am I in the right place? Am I in the right room? Does I deserve to be here or not? So this is a very common, regular question that I keep asking myself. And it's a pity that we spend so much energy instead of valuing ourselves and improving our performance, keep returning into that questioning, am I at the right place? Should I maybe change to another place or something like that? So this is one of the biggest challenges I've been through personally. I don't know if it's because of the tech environment or because it's a very prestigious, surrounded with super talent. Apparently at Google, even men experience imposter syndrome. So it's a very common challenge. But then it's only through experience and over time that you learn that you need to overcome that. And to overcome that, you need to shift the way how you see things from trying to see criticism, like feedback as criticism, into seeing feedback as opportunity for growth. You see, it's the same input. The input is people telling you things to improve. Instead of focusing on why is he saying that? Is it because I'm stupid? Is it because he doubt on my knowledge? Rather, he actually gave me a feedback, meaning that he values me and he wants me to grow. And you see, it's the same input, just a different output. It's a different way of analyzing the insight that you're getting. And surprisingly, if you work on that over time, it takes time, because in companies like Spotify and Google, we value feedback a lot. So we get feedback very regularly over time. Like sometimes it's a cycle, is continuous to get feedback. So I started to enjoy a lot getting feedback, because that was gold. That was the best way to improve myself and grow in my position. I mean, it's a plus. Not everyone has the luxury to receive feedback. So instead of taking it as a negative aspect, I started even to enjoy it and write it down and take notes and analyze the feedback, etc. And that helps a lot in shifting the mindset and start to see potential in yourself.
Yeah, shifting the mindset, starting to see the potential, but also do the work. Yeah, to embrace the feedback that you want to embrace, of course, because
it's a lot of energy in your head when you're analyzing feedback as criticism, and you're reducing that. You making space in your brain suddenly, and that space will be useful for something else.
Actually, that's true. That's very valuable advice. I would love to, talk more about the feedback and the challenges. But maybe we will move to the topic of actually the challenge that is with us now, which is evolvement of product management. We are asking questions if product managers are still needed, if AI will replace product managers. Do we need agile? Do we need Scrum? Do we need everything around? How do you see product management evolving in the future, taking into account all that mindset shifts and new technologies coming?
So I've been a product manager. I've been a very busy product manager. So for all the companies that sometimes talk about, oh, we actually don't need product manager, I sometimes take it personally, like, how? I've been very busy trying to bring the two words, like the business word with the engineers, and communicate and translate the message, because engineers don't talk the business language and business does not understand the engineer language. So one piece of my role was very fundamental to make these two words communicate effectively with each other. So if you're not having a product manager in your organization, meaning that there is a huge misalignments, at least a risk of misalignments. And what happens most of the time is an engineer will deliver something, they show it to the business, and the business will say, this is not what we asked for. Because the engineer didn't understood at the time. So one big piece of product manager role is to bring that gap and to try to make sure that these two words communicate with each other. And honestly, throughout my career, I've put too many hats. At some point of my career, I've been doing more of delivery work, what we call product owner most of the time today. Is I've been helping them sorting tickets in the backlog and making sure that they have the right priorities. But guess what? I realized over a couple of months that was not a big value for the engineers. Actually, they can almost do it themselves. I mean, it's all about organizing the delivery backlog, you hire great minds so they can do it themselves. However, what they do value me quite well and surprisingly high is for bringing them the why. And that's how I started to invest most of my time trying to understand the why from a customer perspective, from a business perspective, and challenging requests and ideas and turning them and bringing them back to the engineers later on. The worst case that could happen to me is that I go to the engineers and tell them, hey, we need to build this, and someone from the team asks me why. I don't want to answer because the customer said they want it, or I don't want to answer because the salesperson said they want to sell it to the customers, or because the business wanted. I needed to come up with a real why, the 5 whys, the 5th level of why is very important. So, and that's the biggest value. Try to disappear 2 weeks on vacation. If you're doing a great why, you'll be very, very much missed. However, if you're doing great backlog sorting, you disappear for 2 weeks, you come back, nobody will miss you.
Yeah, that's true. So, taking into account what you just said about the great why, but also elaborating more on that, what skills should product managers focus on developing to stay relevant in this ever-evolving field?
I usually call it the 5 knowledge area. Every product manager has to be great at 5 knowledge areas. Do you know them? The first one is they need to be great at understanding their product. It may sound very obvious, but you know what? It may happen that product manager is meeting a customer, the customer is talking about new feature, and the PM is like, which one? Oh, I haven't seen it. So you need to be on top of everything happening in your product. So you need to be the first user and you need to know all the features, even those that you're not personally working on. So if you're working on Chrome, for example, there are a lot of opportunities of new features coming every day. So know your product. That's knowledge number 1. Knowledge number 2 is understanding your users. So always be close to your users. Know who are your users, what they do with your products. Segment them on a different level. By the way, there are different types of segmentation. There is the behavioral segmentation, meaning that how they use the product, but there is the motivational segmentation, which is why do they want to use your product. So know your users. Number 3 is understanding the business, meaning that you need to be on top of what your business leaders are driving the company for. So what's the vision? What's the strategy? Why are we crafting such a strategy? So you need to be on top of that. Number 4 is the market. So who are your competitors? What are they doing out there? And it's also this evolving technology is part of the market, meaning that what are those my competitors using these emerging technology for? So it's extremely important to understand what are my strengths in my products and what are my weaknesses compared to my competitors as well. So we said knowing the product, knowing the users, knowing the business, knowing the market, and there's number 5, which is very essential for a product manager to be successful, is knowing the data. Analytical skills is one of the very important skill for all product manager to make the right decision. And when I say data, it's not necessarily be very geek or like data profound person. Like you don't necessarily have to code for that. I mean, what is very much needed is like being able to analyze dashboard and ask for the right information from data scientists, for example. So these are the 5 core skills I guess every product manager has to nail. And if they see some weaknesses in one of them, it's probably a sign to allocate some time to catch up on those.
That's very interesting.
But also it's a time distribution. See it as a time distribution. Look at your week and say, how much am I assigning for analyzing market? How much am I assigning for analyzing data? How much am I assigning for understanding business needs? How much time am I assigning for touch pointing with the users? And am I playing enough with the product, or am I assuming that I know it enough?
Yeah, that's very useful to know, these core areas, because very often as product people, we also tend to, fall into product owner role, focus too much on backlog management and the delivery side of things. But there is much more to master actually if we want to be great product people. And if we're talking about, being constrained by limited resources or organizational challenges, what advice would you give to product people facing that problems?
So I do coach quite many product managers nowadays, and I'm realizing that what sounds quite obvious, which is spending time on discovery, is not necessarily supported by all organizations. So I'm coaching some product managers who are telling me, hey, I'm not having the buy-in from my manager to go and talk to users. What do you think? Like, what are you talking about? You're talking about user research, but we don't even do that. It's not even a discipline in our company. And same, when I talk about delight, people are saying, hey, are you dreaming? We are not even honoring the functional part. So people are convinced. So those that I coach are convinced that it's very important to do discovery. They're convinced that they need to build products that users love. But they don't know how to get the buy-in from the leaders. So that's your question. It says, how can we get this done? And the best way is, of course, we all agree, change management is the hardest. Like you can't change an organization from being a non-discovery to a discovery. However, what you can do is you can do that at your scale. So usually for the product manager I coach, I tell them like the technique and the way to do it and say, hey, you know what? Free a half day of your time, or even sometimes 2 hours per week of your time, and start doing it by your own and show the impact to your manager. You don't have to get the approval to get it done. Rather, do a very small initiative yourself that doesn't require a lot of your time and your energy, and show the impact. It's more like convincing by impact rather than convincing by words. And surprisingly, it works much better. So when you are, like for those who have been coached and they manage to spare like 2 hours a week talking to users, after 5 weeks, they sat with their manager and said, look, this is amazing. I did like 10 hours interview with my users, and I realized that they need this, this, this. And it's so eyes-opening to the manager. So it does make impact, but unfortunately not in front, but more once a bit of outcome is there.
I would summarize it as be the change in the world that you want to see.
it's beneficial for the PM motivation as well. Honestly, product managers who are spending a lot of time doing discovery are usually much more motivated doing their work than those only doing delivery.
That was very insightful what you said about making the time to actually do the discovery, to learn how to be a great product manager. And as a mentor and coach, what would you advise the next generation of product managers to thrive and be a great product people in the future?
So to summarize, I would say a lot of advice are needed, but to summarize, I would say 3 pieces of advice are very much helpful in the PM career. The first one is to be curious. So try to learn what's going on outside. A lot of books are getting released, a lot of frameworks, a lot of LinkedIn posts and stories we hear. So get curious what's in there. You don't necessarily have to read all the books, but luckily today there are AI tools that can summarize, and audiobooks helps a lot. So at least get yourself on top of what most product managers use nowadays. That's number one. Number two, honestly, being a PM can feel lonely sometimes. And believe me, I've been there. And I mean, especially like when I was in IC before, you feel much more supported and much more surrounded. But when you turn PM, you have much more accountability, you have more responsibility, and like, that responsibility is a very heavy weight on us. So I felt on many occasions in my career quite lonely, and it can be sometimes hurting for our mental health. So the second piece of advice is get yourself involved in community of practice and community of learning and community of interest. So if you're interested in a specific topic, if you have it in your company, by the way, this community of practice, great. If you don't have it, build it. Nobody will really tell you, hey, we don't want your community of practice to learn about product management tools or product management frameworks or whatever. I personally have been involved in internal product community of practice, but also have been very much involved in external community of practice. So as a speaker, as a mentor, but also as even organizers of meetup. And that did help a lot in keeping good mental health. And I had a third advice to share is invest in yourself. It may sound like obvious, but we don't necessarily have the time to invest in getting ourselves better. And when I say invest in yourself, it's not necessarily only about getting learnings and trainings, etc. It could be by having a coach or a mentor. I've been coached in my career, like over the last 12 years, maybe 4 or 5 times. And every time I've been coached, it was eye-opening for something. Like, it was an eye-opening opportunity to know that, hey, I want to invest more in that, or I don't want to do that anymore. It's not something that brings me joy. Because these moments are very scary when you are in this wheel of product management and job. So having this time and space with someone you trust does allow you to think outside of your daily thoughts. And that's how we allow ourselves to grow. So this is key. The other thing that I found myself very helpful for myself, I was changing role quite often because every time I've been in a new product, it was a new insight, and I was bringing what I learned from the previous product, you see. So I'm not saying that you need to hop from a product to another every year. Allow yourself a space like 3-4 years every time. Get the knowledge you need, and then allow yourself and open the opportunity to move to something different is a great opportunity for growth.
Okay, yeah, that are great advices. So curiosity, joining the community, and investing in yourself. And for our listeners who want to connect with you or maybe would like to be mentored by you, where they can find you online?
I'm quite available on LinkedIn. They can reach out. I do have a website as well, and on the website there is a Calendly where people can take one-on-ones, and very happy to chat with people on whatever product management or even career-related chat. I do that quite often. So best way, LinkedIn or even Calendly to get a one-on-one is a perfect way.
Thank you, Nesrine, for our conversation. I will put the links to your website and to your LinkedIn to the episode descriptions. Thank you for your insights, advices, and that will be the goals, I think, for most of the product leaders who want to grow, who want to invest in themselves, and who are curious. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining me on another episode of Doing It My Way by Beata Matras. If you enjoyed this episode, please do not forget to subscribe. Remember, this podcast is a dynamic journey and your feedback is very welcomed. Connect with me on social media. I would like to hear your thoughts, questions, and topic suggestions. And stay tuned for upcoming episodes. And until next time, keep doing it your way.